Greetings, Dungeoneer and elite member of the Guild of Brave Scoundrels, Mercenaries, and Criminally Knowledgeable Explorers, Rogues, and Scoundrels, also known as the Gobsmackers, +2 renown to me for getting that right. Welcome to Adventure 4, our first team versus team tactical skirmish game, also known as Portal Wars, in which two teams consisting of 5 players each will have exactly 3 hours to decimate, obliterate, and completely annihilate the opposing team. You'll have several warfare tactics and components at your disposal to do that, including summoning monsters, summoning mini villains, fortifying your base, and placing traps and sentinels as you go on. The overall win scenario of the game consists of gaining objectives, of which there are 8 in total. At the end of the day, the team with the most objectives wins the game. It really is that simple. Or is it? The purpose of this video is to serve as a tutorial and also to save time on the rules clarification, so that come Saturday we can get right into the game without having to faff about around rules and clarity of rules. Yes, there may still be some clarification needed, but hopefully this gives you an overall understanding of what to expect in this game, because there are quite a few moving parts. Stay towards the end. Do grab your popcorn bowl. There's a special announcement as well. And yeah, let's get to it. Thank you. The backstory. In Adventure 2, The Lair of the Spider Queen, you fought your way through webs and venom to claim the Amulet of Lolth. Some of you took to wearing it like a fashion statement, thinking yourselves clever, but the amulet whispers still, twisting hearts and darkening minds. Now, a shadowy figure, one Hallister Darkcloak, has revealed himself. He's the puppet master behind these trials, ripping open magical rifts and dragging the guild into his cruel playground. And thus, the guild finds itself trapped in a Marvel-style secret war, divided into 2 rival factions, fighting not just for survival, but for the supremacy of the guild itself. Now that we've had the backstory, let's have a look at the arena itself. Well, it wouldn't be called Portal Wars without portals. And in this case, we've got 2 portals. We've got the spinny green portal on the one side of the board, with its portal guardian being Gravestorm the Dracolich. And obviously, we've got the players up front over there. And on the other side, we've got the Fiery Chasmy portal on that side, with a Shardlin the Red Dragon being its guardian, and that team over there. Each team will have their own set of healing surges, 5 in total. Each team will also have their own unique monster deck. This monster deck has been pre-selected and divided equally in terms of the 1 level up to 4 level monsters across both teams, and some of the monsters have got tactical advantage in terms of sentinels, and we'll get to that in a second. Overall, in terms of the overall gameplay of the game, everything is pretty stock standard. You have your hero phase, during which your player will move and attack or double move. There is no exploration phase. So no exploring, no drawing of encounters, although encounters do factor into the game, and we'll look at that in a second. But let's just talk about the additional actions. So in this version of the game, you also get up to 3 additional skirmish actions and 1 fortify action, which we'll explain in a second. As you can see, there are fortifications scattered across the board. What do they actually mean? We'll explain that in a minute. Portal spawns occur during your hero phase, and you draw a token from this bag here over here, which consists of a bunch of monster tokens that have randomly been placed, ranging from 1 monsters all the way up to 3 monster tokens. You draw one of that. In this case, as you can see, I've drawn a 2 monster token, so I will draw from the top of this deck 2 monsters and spawn those monsters on the tile in front of the portal. Let's say it just happened to be a Orc Archer and a Goblin Archer, and those were the 2 that I spawned. Monsters always spawn on your team's portal tile, and spawned monsters will always obey the active hero and activate during the villain phase. You can also place a sentinel if applicable, and we'll get to that in a second. So, for example, let's say that the active hero was drizzed over there and he had chosen to spend his additional skirmish action to spawn those two monsters. During his villain phase, those monsters will activate. They will always try to find a linear path towards the enemy, which in this case is the opposing team's battlefield. So they will make their way down south towards that team, or north or south, depending on what you prefer. But they will make their way towards that team and look to be the cannon fodder to take out that team's opposing factions. Just some important things to note. You can attempt to spawn monsters and enclose them in your fortifications if you like. They will be none too happy about that and they will break your walls down. Essentially, the monsters want to kill other monsters. So, just bear that in mind when summoning and spawning. So that is the first skirmish action that you can perform. It's called spawning. Okay, for skirmish action number 2, you can perform a booby trap placement. To place a booby trap during your hero phase, you can choose your skirmish action to do a booby trap move, in which case you will draw from this little baggie over here a trap token. You will draw a trap token which you will not reveal to the opposing team. You can reveal it to your teammates. In this case, it says safe. There is no safe in this game. So I'll explain to you how safe works. And you can place it at any tile where your hero is, on any square adjacent to that hero, and you can have a maximum of 4 traps per tile. So don't think you can just litter the entire tile with traps, but at the end of the day you can place traps to your advantage to fend off enemy advances. Just some things to note, like I mentioned, there is no safe on this trap. Trap results a 0 damage, or a safe trap means you draw an encounter. So no such thing as safe traps. There is also a draw trap sitting inside one of these. If you have a draw trap, you have to draw from the trap deck. The trap deck is a special deck of cards which deals out particularly nasty elements to the opposing team. Traps only trigger for heroes. That's important to note. So if you had monsters moving across here, they will not trigger those traps. Either your monsters or the team's monsters will not be triggered by traps, but the heroes will be. Okay, those are traps. Okay, for skirmish action number 3, you can choose to summon out some big guns. Right, so obviously you want to summon some powerful villains to aid you in your assault against your opposing foes on the other side. And to do that, you will have to pay the villain cost. All the mini villains within the game start with a base cost of 5 XP plus the D4 roll. So you roll 1 D4. In this case, I rolled a wonderful one. So my villain that I would have to pay the cost for would cost a total of 6 XP. You pay the 6 XP up front. Important things to note is that you cannot pay off your villain as a loan, meaning if you choose to spend your skirmish action as a summon villain action, you have to pay the total cost up front. If you don't have enough XP, you forfeited your move, your action, and you carry on as is. If you do have enough XP, you get to draw from a special bag of villains. In this case, I've got a pile, and I'm just going to take the top one off, and as you can see, I've summoned Ertu the Baylor. And we've seen him before, but this is him in his standard form. Villains are obviously really cool to have in the game because they do boost your advantage. Another important thing to note is that you can only summon each minor villain once per match. So if I've summoned R2 and he's killed for whatever reason, I cannot summon him again. He's removed, or his token is removed from the board in the game completely. Minor villains activate at the start of each villain phase. So they, again, that gives you a great tactical advantage. Alright, now that we've discussed villains, let's move on to fortifications. So let's talk fortifications. During your hero phase, you may forfeit your movement or attack actions to fortify your base or your stronghold and prevent the enemies from assaulting you. In order to do that, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to forge components. And to forge components, you roll a dice, a d6 die, and based on the outcome of the die, minus your speed of the hero that's currently in play, in this case, Drizzt with a movement of say 6, less 1, he can forge a total of 5 components. Each team will be given a pool of components equally distributed across the teams of components that they can forge, and in this case Drizzt is able to forge quite a bit of number of components, total of 5. So all forged components are then placed on the tile in front of the portal, and any player, they distributed across the team, any player can then pick them up and move them to a desired location at a reduced movement cost of less 2. So if Drizzt was the active player in that case and he wanted to move, say, this pillar, and each of the forged components have specific benefit, he would have a total of 5 movement in order to put or take this to its desired location. Once a forged component is placed, you cannot move it again. So that's on forging components. Another important thing to note is that negative outcomes, so for instance, if Drizzt had a total of 4 movement points and I rolled a 5 or a 6, that's a -2, means no components are forged. Like I said, forged components on the portal tile may be shared and they may be carried to a desired location at a reduced movement cost of 2, of less 2 to speed. So that's on fortification. Let's talk about that's on forging. Let's talk about actual fortification. So let's talk about fortifications. Fortifications cost attacks. Like forging components cost movement, fortifying costs attack. You may forfeit your attack action to place one single fortification component. It must be placed on the tile that your hero is standing on. And important thing to note is that fortifications block line of sight to both the attacker and the defender. Some stats on fortifications that are important. Walls have an AC of 14 and an HP of 3. Pillars, an AC of 12 and an HP of 2. And doors, there's a door. Doors have an AC of 16 and an HP of 5. Skull gates, which you see over there, are indestructible, and we'll get to them in a bit. They require riddles. Okay, let's talk about sentinels, because while you're reinforcing walls, you may even choose to place some powerful sentinels on top of that. Sentinels must be placed on pillars and walls, and the limit is 1 sentinel per pillar, 1 sentinel per wall. So in this case, we have a gargoyle on a pillar, a goblin on the wall, and we can place another goblin on that pillar there, which won't invalidate the rule. Sentinels don't activate until an enemy hero is within line of sight, or within 1 tile at the very least. They have advantage on all attacks. Once they moved off from the current location, they activate as per normal in the villain phase. Ranged sentinels will always attack with range first, and they may be targeted by other ranged attacks. For instance, if my rogue over here were to throw a carefully placed dagger at them, that range attack may possibly hit. Some ballad sentinel monsters include gargoyles, Durga guard, snakes, spiders, rat swarms, spider swarms, goblins, and kobolds. You cannot place big villains on top of walls. That's just not allowed. So they're limited to that pool, and the pool is distributed equally across the team. So those are sentinels. You can also reinforce your fortifications by adding additional components to each other. For in this case, walls and pillars may be reinforced by joining them. You get little thingies like this to help join them together. Reinforced walls have a +1 AC per join component to a maximum of 16 AC. Don't worry about the stats, you're going to have a printed rule set when we get to the game. And sentinels on the reinforced walls gain advantage. I'll explain sentinels now. So forging components is great, fortifying them is great, but reinforcing them is even more spectacular and will help strengthen your defense against your enemies. While we're on the topic of sentinels, let's talk about scaling walls. Scaling walls are only possible at sentinel points, or places where sentinels can be placed. Monsters have disadvantage when attempting to scale. So if Mr. Orc Archer over here was going to attempt to scale, he would have disadvantage, and heroes would have a minus d4 to movement when scaling. So you need to roll a d4 to see what my movement would be like if I attempt to scale this wall. A sentinel on the wall must be destroyed before scaling. In that case, we knocked him off. And once scaled, that wall then loses integrity. You remove the defending sentinels, all of them. They're not defeated if they're not killed, but they get off the wall, and you place a -4 token to the AC of that wall, because that wall has now been breached. And that is on scaling walls. Okay, let's talk about doors. Components that are adjacent to doors cannot be destroyed until the door itself is destroyed. Instead of destroying, a hero may attempt to open a door. To open a door, you roll 1d4. Again, if I can find it. It is. You roll 1d4, and based on the outcome of that roll, if it is a 1, the door opens and the hero may then enter. It will close behind once the hero has entered. If it's a 2, the door does open, but the hero has to draw from the encounter deck. If it's a 3, the door does open and the hero has to draw from the trap deck. And if it's a 4, the door unfortunately remains closed, and the nearest monster is then spawned and ambushed on the tile that the hero is on. And that's doors. Let's talk about skull gates. Each team will have one skull gate available to them that they can use to their advantage. They cannot be destroyed by any attacks. They are virtually indestructible. They have a hypnotic eye beam that will target enemies on either side, and it's got a range of 1 tile. So if Cat was over here and where's Drizzard was on the other side, the hypnotic eye beam would be able to target both of them. When encountered, so encountered means you're on the tile in front of the skullgate, you have to answer a riddle. And we'll explain how the riddles work in a second. But if the hero answers the riddle correctly, they may enter. If incorrect, they once again have to roll a d4 die. And based on the outcome of that die, if you rolled a 1, you would take 1 damage and be dazed, which is not great if you're in the enemy territory. If you rolled a 2, you would take 1 damage and be slowed. If you rolled a 3, 1 damage and immobilized. And if you rolled a 4, all heroes within 1 tile of the skullgate take 2 damage and are dazed. So skullgates are extremely powerful and can be used tactically to your advantage. One good thing to note is that if you do answer the riddle correctly, and if you answer 3 subsequent riddles correctly, so if 3 heroes were attempting to enter the skullgate over here, and let's say each 3 of them managed to answer that riddle correctly, the skullgate is destroyed. So that is the only way to destroy a skullgate, is to answer the 3 riddles correctly. The riddles will be printed cards that will be distributed across the team for both teams, and each team will have a fair share of riddles that they can position to the opposing team. Let's talk about portal bosses. So each portal is guarded by a portal boss. Like I said, on one side we've got the Dracolich, and on the other side we've got the Shardlin. The portal guardians activate only when an enemy team enters the inner chamber, meaning the horrid chamber over here. The moment that team has entered that, then the portal guardian will activate. The guardian's job is to defend the portal. Any movement on the card that says move towards the closest hero can be interpreted as move back towards the portal. They won't move from the portal, they will defend it with their lives, or in this case, his undead life or unlife, not quite sure. Anyway, those are portal guardians. Portals, on the other hand, have got an HP of 20 and an AC of 14. Obviously, you'd want to destroy your enemy's portal, but that's not the only way to win the game. And to do that, we'll talk about the win scenarios and objectives of the game. Okay, then let's talk about objectives and win scenarios. There are a total of 8 objectives or trophies to win in this game, as well as 2 bonus objectives. And they are the obvious ones, like when destroying the team's portal over there. If you destroy the opposing team's portal, you gain the incinerator bonus, and that counts as an objective win. If you defeat the enemy guardian, in this case Draculich over here or Shardlin on the other side, you get the trophy title of being a champion slayer. If you manage to defeat 2 minor villains, here we've got the Otyugh as well as the Baylor, you get a battle hardened achievement as a trophy. If you destroy the opposing Skullgate, meaning you managed to answer 3 riddles in a row correctly and the Skullgate is destroyed, you get the achievement of being a Riddler Redeemer, which counts as an objective win. Bomb Specialist, if you manage to defuse a total of, or disarm a total of 8 traps in total from the, as you make your way through the enemy stronghold, you get the title of being a bomb specialist, and that counts as an objective win. Assassin status, if you reduce any opposing hero, so cat over there, any opposing hero gets killed, you get the assassin. Any 2 opposing heroes, you get the assassin bonus. So for any 2 opposing heroes that gets killed, you get the assassin bonus, which also counts as an objective win. Sorcerer Summoners, if you manage to summon 3 minor villains, so you spent your skirmish action to do a summoning and you manage to summon 3 minor villains at any time during the game, you also get that as an objective win. A master strategist is, that is, if you have 5 active sentinels in play, so good placement of your sentinels. If you have any 5 of them in play, you gain that objective immediately. Then there are bonus objectives, the one being Spawn Kings, where you've run through your entire monster deck and managed to spawn all of those monsters. You gain that objective as a bonus win. And the last one is called Master Builders, not from the Lego movie, although I do love the Lego movie. If you manage to forge all of your components and you have all of your components up, you gain that as an objective win. So a total of 8 objectives. Each time you win, your objectives will go onto this little objective board over there. I'll provide you with tokens for keeping track of your wins, as well as the villains that you defeat can also go on there. And at the end of the game, the team with the most objectives is the winner. So if you've got a total of 5 objectives and the other team has got a total of 4 objectives, then the team with 5 is the team that wins. Winning objectives obviously means renown. You get a total of 0.5 renown for each objective you gain. And that renown can be used at any time across your other heroes as well. So you've got other heroes that you haven't been playing because you haven't managed to level them up. You can use your renown for that. So that brings me to the final announcement for this tutorial, and I hope that this tutorial has been informative enough for everyone. If you need a replay or a recap, please study and go through the rule set. We will have one in-game, is that for any indecisiveness, we will have a dual roll across the teams of a d20 die. The team with the highest always wins. So if we're unsure of anything in the game, we'll leave it to the dice to decide for us. Okay, and that brings me to my final announcement for this tutorial, and that is that we are a team of 9 players and 1 DM, which makes the game fairly unbalanced because we'll have a team of 4 and a team of 5. So for this game, said DM will be playing as well. It's fairly balanced and laid out. Everything is fairly autonomous. I mean, if it's decided by the draw of a deck or the roll of a dice, which means I can actually play in this game without any advantage. I will be using or choosing from one of my pre-built existing characters from the base games. I'll not be playing anything off my blog. However, I will be starting, just to be fair, because you've all leveled up to certain levels, I will be starting at the very least at level 2 with whatever character I decide on playing. I'll give the layout of the rules and rule sets as well. I'll share that and distribute it on this group, as well as the team layout. In terms of where this DM lands up, we'll leave it up to the dice to decide on the teams on the day. So everything will be decided by a dice roll, teams will be decided by a dice roll, and where in which team will also be decided by a dice roll. As I said, the game is completely autonomous. We're looking for encouraging teamwork, of course, encouraging fun gameplay, and our first PvP or team versus team tactical skirmish game. See you all on Saturday. Enjoy.